I found out my fiancée had been sleeping with my father, and in that moment, the world I thought I lived in collapsed like a house built on smoke. The discovery didn't come with dramatic music or a perfectly timed confrontation. It came quietly, cruelly, the way truth often does. Through a stray message on a phone I wasn't supposed to be holding. 1 second I was bored, flipping through notifications while she showered, and the next my chest was hollowed out by a sentence I couldn't unsee. Her name. His name. A history I never asked for. A betrayal so complete it felt unreal, like my brain was refusing to translate what my eyes were reading. I remember sitting on the edge of our bed, the mattress dipping under my weight, the room spinning just slightly, as if gravity itself had loosened its grip on me. The walls still held our framed photos, weekend trips, goofy selfies, the engagement picture my mother had insisted on putting in a silver frame. I stared at that smiling version of myself and wondered who that idiot was. He looked so safe, so certain. When she stepped out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel and humming, I couldn't even look at her. My throat closed around every word I wanted to say. There was a hot, violent pulse behind my eyes. Rage, grief, disbelief, taking turns like waves crashing into me, one after the other. I stood up so fast the chair scraped against the floor, and the sound made her flinch. "What's wrong?" she asked. I laughed, not because anything was funny, but because if I didn't laugh I was going to scream. That was the last normal moment of my life. The days after the truth came out blurred into a colorless smear of time, like someone had taken an eraser to my life and left only the outlines. I wish I could say I exploded. I wish I could say I yelled, threw things, demanded explanations. But the truth is uglier and quieter. I went numb. My body kept moving while my mind lagged behind, like a bad connection. I'd wake up in the morning with my heart already pounding, the memory of that message slamming into me before I was even fully conscious. Some mornings I lay there staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself it had been a nightmare. It never worked. Then the anger would come, sudden, white-hot. I'd be washing a mug in the sink or tying my shoes, and my hands would start shaking so badly I had to stop what I was doing. The betrayal replayed itself on a loop in my head. Her laugh, his voice, the secret world they'd built behind my back. I felt stupid for every moment I'd trusted either of them. I felt small for never seeing it coming. I didn't have many people in my real life to lean on. A few friends, sure. But family? That word had turned into a sick joke overnight. The two people who were supposed to protect me had become the ones who gutted me. My mother's voice, when I finally confronted her, still echoed in my ears, sharp, defensive, saying things to me I wouldn't say to someone I hated. Whatever bond we had, she'd set it on fire and walked away. Weeks passed. I stopped pretending I was okay. I stopped answering calls. My phone became this glowing rectangle of guilt and noise. Missed calls from my fiancée, messages from my parents, a few worried check-ins from friends. I let it buzz on the table like a trapped insect and didn't touch it. Talking to them felt impossible. The idea of explaining myself to people who had helped break me, or who wanted me to pretend it wasn't that bad, made my chest tighten until breathing hurt. I had never felt so alone in a crowded world. One night, sitting on the floor of the apartment we'd planned to leave together one day, I realized I couldn't stay there anymore. Every corner held a memory I couldn't bear to touch. The walls felt like they were closing in, whispering reminders of a life that no longer existed. That was the night I decided I was done pretending nothing needed to change. The next morning, I started dismantling my life with a checklist. It sounds cold when I put it that way, but I needed something concrete to hold on to. Tasks I could complete, boxes I could tick, proof that I was still capable of motion even if I wasn't capable of feeling much else. I called my doctor first. My voice sounded steady to my own ears, which surprised me. I told the receptionist I needed to get tested. I didn't explain why. I didn't have the energy to explain anything. When she asked if I'd like a referral for therapy, the word yes slipped out of me before I could overthink it. Therapy. The idea made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't fully explain. I'd spent most of my life believing I could handle my own problems, fix them, carry them. This wasn't a problem I could carry without collapsing under the weight of it. So I agreed to the referral and hung up, staring at my phone like it had just made a decision for me. The bed had to go next. It sounds dramatic, but I couldn't sleep on it anymore. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured them there. My fiancé and my father, occupying the same space where I'd once felt safe. The mattress felt contaminated by memory. I dragged the sheets off with more force than necessary and stood there, breathing hard, my hands curled into fists. I didn't break down. I didn't cry. I just felt tired in a way that sank into my bones. A friend of mine works in real estate. I called him without small talk and told him I needed out. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere no one could accidentally find me. He sent me a flood of listings within the hour. Cabins, small houses, places that looked like they belonged to people who wanted to disappear for a while. One of them stood out. A refurbished cabin on the outskirts of the city, backed by trees and open sky. It wasn't fancy. It was remote enough to breathe. 2 days ago, I finished moving. The cabin smelled like fresh wood and dust when I first walked in. There was a back deck that looked out over a stretch of land so quiet it felt unreal, like a painting you could step into. For the first time in weeks, my chest loosened just a fraction. Not relief, more like the absence of constant pressure. No one here knew what I lost. No one here expected anything from me. Sometimes that's a relief. Sometimes it's just another version of being alone. The trade-off was brutal. What used to be a 10-minute walk to work was now a 45-minute drive. But the distance felt worth it. Distance was the point. That night, sitting alone in the half-unpacked cabin, I realized that moving wasn't just about changing addresses. It was about running from a version of my life I couldn't survive in anymore. Once I was out, I cut the last loose thread tying me to the old apartment. I called her parents. My hand hovered over the screen longer than it should have. Part of me wanted to let her deal with the fallout herself. Part of me wanted to be done with anything that had her name attached to it. But I knew if I didn't make the call, her things would rot in that apartment until the landlord tossed them into a dumpster. And somehow, that felt like one more mess I'd be blamed for later. When they picked up, I kept my voice flat, controlled. I told them I'd moved out, that she still hadn't collected her things, that the landlord was going to start showing the place in a few days, and if no one came for her stuff, it was going to be thrown out. I didn't explain why I'd left. I didn't offer details. I didn't owe them my story. Something in my tone must have landed, because the next day my former landlord texted me, thanking me for getting the apartment cleared out. Just like that, the last physical proof of our life together was boxed up and hauled away without either of us present. The finality of it hit me harder than I expected. Years reduced to cardboard and trash bags. My phone didn't stop vibrating. Her name lit up the screen more times than I cared to count. Then my father's. Then my mother's. Then a few friends who kept trying to reach me. I let every call ring out. The buzzing of my phone felt like insects crawling under my skin. I wanted silence. I wanted control over who had access to me, even if that meant having almost no one. Work became a performance. I showed up. I did what I was paid to do. I left. On the rare occasions I had to speak to someone, I put on a smile that felt like it belonged to a stranger. My boss noticed. She tried to check in, her voice soft with concern, eyes searching my face for cracks. I thanked her. I told her I appreciated it. I told her I'd be okay. The truth was, I didn't know if I would be. People love to say time heals everything. Maybe that's true when you're grieving one loss. But I wasn't just mourning a relationship. I was mourning my family. I was mourning the version of myself who believed in them. It felt like losing 3 pillars at once and being expected to stand in the rubble like nothing had happened. A part of me had died when I read that message on her phone. And no matter how much time passed, I couldn't shake the certainty that part of me wasn't coming back. That night, alone in the cabin, I sat on the edge of my new bed, the one piece of furniture I'd bought specifically so I wouldn't have to sleep on the old memories, and wondered what it meant to keep living when the life you'd planned was already over. Therapy started 2 weeks after everything blew up, and walking into that office felt like admitting defeat to a war I didn't know how to fight. The waiting room smelled faintly of coffee and something floral. There were neutral paintings on the walls, the kind meant to calm you down without saying anything at all. I sat there with my hands clasped between my knees, jaw tight, staring at a plant in the corner and wondering if this was what broken people did. Sit quietly and wait to be called in. She was kinder than I expected. Not in a syrupy, forced way, just present. Like she actually meant it when she asked how I was doing. The first session was mostly introductions, her explaining how things worked, me explaining poorly what had brought me there. I told her the facts without emotion, like I was reciting someone else's tragedy. My fiancé, my father. The overlap of those two words still made my stomach twist. She listened without interrupting, her expression steady, grounded, like she was anchoring the room while I drifted somewhere outside my own body. The second session went deeper. She asked about my parents. I told her that up until recently, I'd thought I'd grown up in a good home. We talked often. We fought sometimes, sure, but we communicated. We fixed things. I'd believed, stupidly, that the foundation was solid. Saying it out loud made me realize how badly I wanted that version of my family to still be true. Then she asked why I'd cut my mother out of my life. The words came out sharper than I intended. I told her my mother had said things to me I wouldn't say to someone I despised. Things that rewrote the past to make herself innocent, to make me the problem for being hurt. I told her there was no apology in the world that could build a bridge back from that. Some lines, once crossed, don't exist anymore. At the end of the session, I hesitated, then did something that surprised even me. I gave her the link to the page where I'd been writing everything down, where strangers knew more about my head than the people who shared my blood. I told her it was easier for me to type than to speak, easier to bleed onto a screen than into the air. She nodded like that made sense. Now I go once a week. I don't know what good therapy is supposed to feel like, but I know I don't dread going. I know that for an hour, I'm allowed to be honest without someone trying to fix me or minimize what happened. That feels rare. The tests are still pending. Another week before I know for sure if she left me with more than just memories I can't scrub out of my head. I find myself holding my breath every time I think about it, like my body is bracing for another blow it doesn't know how to absorb. Sometimes I imagine the phone call with the results going badly, and the anger surges back, fresh and violent. Sometimes I imagine it going well, and the emptiness is worse. Either way, I'm starting to realize this isn't a wound that closes cleanly. It's the kind that teaches you how to live around the scar. Most days now, my life fits into a small, lonely routine. I wake up before my alarm. The sky still dark beyond the windows of the cabin. For a split second, there's peace. Just the quiet hum of the world existing without me in it. Then my thoughts catch up, and the weight settles back onto my chest like it's been waiting all night to do its job. I shower. I dress. I make coffee I barely taste. Then I get in my car and drive 45 minutes to a job that feels farther away than the distance suggests. At work, I'm a ghost. I do what I need to do. I nod at people in the hallway. On the rare occasion someone asks how I'm doing, I give them the practiced answer. I'm okay. It's not even a lie anymore, it's a placeholder. A word that means I'm functioning, not that I'm fine. My boss still checks in on me, her concern gentle and persistent, and I still thank her and deflect. I don't have the energy to explain myself to people who didn't help break me. I don't have the strength to be vulnerable in places that don't feel safe. My phone stays face down on the table most of the time. When I turn it over, there are always missed calls. Her name shows up less now, which I should probably be grateful for. My parents' names still appear more often than they deserve to. A few friends keep trying, their messages kind and patient in a way that almost hurts more than if they'd given up. I know I'm the one creating this distance. I know I'm isolating myself. But the thought of responding, of opening the door to conversations, invitations, sympathy, feels exhausting in a way sleep doesn't fix. So I don't respond. At night, I sit on the back deck of the cabin with a glass of cheap whiskey, the kind that burns just enough to remind me I'm still in my body. The view stretches out in front of me. Trees, open land, a sky that doesn't care about my problems. The quiet is heavy but honest. No one here knows what I lost. No one here expects anything from me. Sometimes that's a relief. Sometimes it's just another version of being alone. I haven't hunted since high school, but the thought keeps drifting into my mind. Something about the simplicity of it, focus, patience, the stillness of waiting, feels like it might match the pace of whatever I've become. There's a strange comfort in the idea that I could step out onto my own back porch and disappear into the woods for a while, even if just in spirit. I wish I could say I'm getting better. The truth is, I'm still miserable. I thought by now I'd at least be okay, not happy, just okay. But healing doesn't move in a straight line. Comes in waves. Some days I'm numb enough to function. Other days the rage and grief hit so hard I have to sit down before I break something I can't replace. For now, this is my life. Work, therapy, silence, and a view beautiful enough to remind me that the world didn't end when mine did. And some nights, when the whiskey is low and the quiet is too loud, I catch myself wondering what kind of man is left when everything he believed in is gone. The call with my test results came on a Tuesday afternoon, right as I was packing up to leave work. I stared at my phone while it rang, my heartbeat loud enough in my ears that I was sure people around me could hear it. For a second, I considered letting it go to voicemail. Delaying the truth had become a habit. But some truths don't shrink when you avoid them, they just wait, growing heavier with every second you pretend they're not there. I stepped outside into the parking lot and answered. The nurse's voice was calm, professional. She read the results the way someone reads the weather. Clear, negative, no further action needed. I thanked her, because that's what you do when someone gives you good news, even when you don't feel good about anything. When the call ended, I stood there with my phone in my hand and waited for the relief to hit. Didn't. What came instead was this hollow, echoing quiet. I wasn't carrying a new consequence of her betrayal, and somehow that didn't feel like a win. It felt like another reminder that the damage she and my father did wasn't something that showed up on a test. There was no lab result for humiliation. No prescription for the way trust rots when the people who taught you what love looks like turn out to be liars. That night, I drove past my parents' neighborhood without meaning to. I took the wrong turn out of habit, muscle memory guiding me down streets I'd known since I was a kid. Their house sat there like it always had. Lights on in the living room, the old tree in the front yard casting familiar shadows. For a moment, I slowed, my foot hovering over the brake. There was a part of me that wanted to stop, to go inside, to demand answers, to scream at them until my throat gave out. I kept driving. Some doors don't lead to closure. They lead back into the fire. Later, my phone buzzed with a message from one of my friends. He didn't ask questions. He didn't push. He just said he missed me and that there was a beer waiting for me whenever I felt like showing up. The simplicity of it hit harder than any long, thoughtful speech. I typed out a response, deleted it, typed another, let the screen go dark. I'm starting to realize that isolation feels safe because it asks nothing of me. But safety isn't the same thing as living. Sitting on the back deck that night, the whiskey untouched beside me, I watched the trees sway in the dark and wondered how long a man can choose solitude before it chooses him back. Thanks for tuning in. Your likes, comments, and subscriptions mean the world.